The summer sun stretched across the old countryside, where Daniel's grandfather's farm stood like a monument of time. For decades, the land had carried not just crops but stories, memories of sweat, harvest, and family pride. But one morning, as Daniel sorted through his grandfather's aging documents, he stumbled upon a letter that froze his heart. The letter bore the bold header of the local HOA. It wasn't just a simple notice, it claimed his grandfather owed $450,000 in back fees. Shocked, Daniel whispered to himself, "How could this be possible? We were never part of their HOA." Neighbors had always admired how the farm was untouched by suburban rules, a rare escape from the HOA's grip. Yet, here it was in black ink, threats of foreclosure, warnings of property seizure. Something felt wrong, deeply wrong. Daniel rushed to the town records office, heart pounding. There, he uncovered something darker. His grandfather's land, over 200 acres of fertile soil, had been mysteriously classified as part of the HOA years ago, without his knowledge. And worse, pieces of that land were no longer farmland at all. As Daniel read further, his hands trembled. The HOA hadn't just filed false claims. They had used portions of the land to build something massive, something his grandfather never agreed to. His breath caught. It was a resort. Daniel drove out to the far side of the property lines, gravel crunching under his tires. What he saw made his chest tighten. Where wheat once danced in the wind now stood sparkling glass windows, tall villas, and manicured lawns. Families splashed in swimming pools, and luxury cars lined the drive. This wasn't just development. This was theft. He approached a worker on site, asking who owned the resort. The man shrugged casually. "The HOA board runs it. They say it's private land under their control." Daniel's fists curled. His grandfather's soil, once tilled by calloused hands, was now the foundation of a playground for the wealthy. He thought of all the evenings his grandfather had stood on the porch, staring proudly over fields he fought to keep. Did he ever know it was stolen beneath him? Daniel tried to confront the HOA president, a sharp-tongued woman known for her smug authority. She smiled coldly. "Your grandfather owed us money. We collected. That's how business works." Her words weren't just insulting. They were baiting him, daring him to fight back. And deep down, Daniel knew this wasn't going to end with words. Determined, Daniel dug deeper. He spent nights at the county clerk's office, poring over property records, scanning every line. That's when he spotted the trick. The HOA had filed forged documents decades ago, using the names of long-gone witnesses to claim boundaries. Each page revealed another cut of land, siphoned away like water from a leaking bucket. By the time Daniel finished tracing the trail, nearly 50 acres of farmland had been absorbed, sold, and built upon. But the biggest discovery came when he found a contract tied to a development company. The HOA hadn't built the resort alone. They had partnered with investors, promising profits from land they never owned. His grandfather's farm was the jewel in their crown. Daniel's chest burned with anger, but also resolve. They thought he was just another heir who wouldn't care. But Daniel wasn't just anyone. He had studied law, and he knew exactly what forged documents meant in court. The resort guests laughed and splashed in the distance, unaware that the land beneath their feet carried a secret. Daniel whispered to himself, "They built it on sand. And I'll make sure it crumbles." Daniel filed his case, his voice steady but fueled by fire. The courtroom filled with HOA board members, smirking as though nothing could touch them. Their lawyer argued with rehearsed arrogance, waving false contracts as if they were gospel. But when Daniel presented the originals, the unaltered deeds, signed by his grandfather decades ago, the room shifted. Gasps rose as the judge leaned forward, scanning the discrepancies. Forged signatures, mismatched dates, altered seals, it was all laid bare. The HOA president tried to interject, her voice high-pitched with panic. This land was abandoned, and the judge's gavel struck. "Enough. This court doesn't tolerate fraud." Daniel could feel the tension crackling in the air. For the first time, the HOA wasn't smirking. Their empire of paperwork was unraveling in real time. And Daniel wasn't done. He had one more card to play. Weeks later, Daniel returned to the courthouse with new evidence. Not only had the HOA stolen his grandfather's farm, they had illegally transferred ownership of resort profits to themselves. But here was the twist: the county had quietly recorded Daniel as the legal heir and rightful landowner. which meant every cent earned from that resort, every brick laid on that soil, legally belonged to him. When the verdict came, the courtroom erupted. The judge's ruling was clear. 1. The HOA's claim of $450,000 was fraudulent. 2. The land and everything on it reverted to Daniel's ownership. 3. The HOA board would be held accountable for damages. Daniel walked out into the sunlight, his chest rising with relief. But in the distance, he knew the fight wasn't over. The resort guests still splashed in pools, unaware that their vacation spot was about to change forever. Daniel wasted no time. Signs went up across the property, under new ownership. HOA board members panicked as resort staff looked to Daniel for guidance. He didn't lash out, he simply asserted his rights. Contracts shifted overnight. Money that once flowed into HOA accounts now funneled into Daniel's. The president of the HOA tried to rally support, but her influence was gone. Without stolen land, she had no power. Neighbors watched in awe as the truth spread. Daniel wasn't just defending his grandfather's honor, he was reclaiming justice for the entire community. The resort, once a symbol of greed, now stood as a reminder that deception never wins in the end. And in a poetic twist, Daniel decided not to shut the resort down. Instead, he kept it running, this time as a legitimate business, with profits funding local schools and farms. What was stolen would now give back. Months later, Daniel stood on the farmhouse porch, looking out at the land. The wheat fields were planted again, golden under the sunlight. Beyond them, the resort shimmered, but now under his name, his control. He thought of his grandfather. How many nights had the old man worried about those strange letters, those creeping threats? If only he could see now. The farm was safe, the lies destroyed, and the land restored to its rightful place. The HOA board, once so proud, now faced fines and community shame. Their empire had collapsed in broad daylight. Daniel smiled faintly, the breeze carrying the scent of wheat. Justice wasn't quick, and it wasn't easy, but it was worth it, and that was the final twist in this unbelievable HOA story. If you loved the drama, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment sharing your thoughts. It really helps this channel grow.